Guys, welcome to my first video on the Finance Starter channel. And in this approach that I plan to do with these videos is to find some articles that I find that are very interesting and just put them into a PowerPoint. So please let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, if you like it, and I'll continue to do it if I get good feedback. But anyways, let's start with our first video, and the title is Why Young People Shouldn't Save for Retirement. Let's answer the question. The case. Many advisors routinely urge those entering the workforce to contribute to the 401k, especially when their employer is matching the same portion of the amount the worker is contributing. The matching contribution is essentially free. New research, however, indicates that many young people should not save for retirement. The reason has to do with something called the life cycle model. What is the life cycle model? Also called the life cycle hypothesis. This is an economic theory that describes the spending and saving habits of people over the course of a lifetime. The theory states that individuals seek the smooth consumption throughout their lifetime by borrowing when their income is low and saving when their income is high. The concept was developed by economist Franco Montanelli and his student Richard Bromberg in the early 1950s. So this is the model. And you can pause the video to look at it, but I will also explain it on the next slide. So from looking at this model, it says, it suggests that young workers with low income de-save, middle-aged workers save a lot, and retirees spend down their savings. And I'll go back to it, as you can see from right here. The just published research, which, to add context, in this article, there is a research paper that was newly published on the life cycle model, which I wasn't able to put in and I wasn't able to find to read. But it examines the life cycle model even further by looking at high and low income workers, as well as whether young workers should be automatically enrolled in 401k plans. What the researchers found is this. Number one, high income workers tend to experience wage growth over their careers, and that's the primary reason why they should wait to save. For these workers, maintain as steady a standard of living as possible therefore requires spending all income while young and only starting to save for retirement during middle age, wrote Jason Scott, part of the research that I was talking about. Number two, low-income workers whose wage profiles tend to be flatter receive high Social Security replacement rates, making optimal saving rates very low. The economic models would suggest, hey, it's not smart to live really high in the years when you're working and really low when you're retired, he said. And so you try to smooth that out. You want to save when you have relatively high income to support yourself when you have relatively low income. That's really the core of the life cycle model. Why spend all your income young and not save? Well, according to Scott, in the life cycle model, we are assuming you are getting the absolute most happiness you can out of the income each year, said Scott. In other words, you are doing your best at age 25 with $25,000, and there is no way to live cheaply and do better, he said. We assume a given amount of money is more valuable to you when you are poor compared to when you are wealthy, meaning $1,000 means a lot more at 25 than at 45. Scott also said that young workers might also consider securing a mortgage to buy a house rather than saving for retirement. The reason? You are borrowing against future earnings to help the consumption, plus you're building equity that can be used to fund future consumption, he said. Are young workers not using time to their advantage? Many institutions and advisors recommend just the opposite of what the life cycle model suggests. They recommend that workers should have a certain amount of their salary salted away for retirement at certain ages in order to fund their desired standard of living in retirement. T. Rowe Price, for instance, suggests that a 30-year-old should have half their salary saved for retirement, a 40-year-old should have 1.5 times to 2 times their salary saved, A 50-year-old should have 3 times to 5.5 times their salary saved, and a 65-year-old should have 7 times to 13.5 times their salary saved. So to continue on this, Scott doesn't disagree that workers should have saving benchmarks as a multiple of income. But he said a high income worker who waits until middle age to save for retirement can easily reach the later age benchmarks. Savings for retirement probably is more than a zero range until 35 or so, Scott said. And then it is probably faster after that because you want to accumulate the same amount. First, saving earns interest, so you have more in the future, he said. However, in economics, we assume that people prefer money today compared to money in the future. Sometimes this is called the time discount. These effects offset each other, so it depends on the situation as to which is more significant. Given interest rates are so low, we generally think time discounts exceed interest rates. And second, Scott said early saving could have a benefit from the power of compounding, but the power of compounding is certainly irrelevant when after inflation rates are zero, as they have been for years. In essence, Scott said the current environment makes a front-loaded lifetime spending profile optimal. Low-income workers don't need to save. As for those with low income, says the 25th percentile, Scott said it's less about the income ramp that really moves savings and more about Social Security is extremely progressive. It replaces a large percentage of one's pre-retirement income. The natural needs to save is not there when Social Security replaces 70, 80, or 90 of one's pre-retirement income, he said. In essence, the more Social Security replaces of your pre-retirement income, the less you'll need to save. The Social Security Administration and others are currently researching what percentage of pre-retirement income Social Security replaces by income quintile. But previously published research from 2014 shows that Social Security represented nearly 84% of the lowest quintile family income in retirement, while it only represented about 16% of the highest quintile family income in retirement. The principle. The principle is about should you save when you're relatively poor so you can have more when you're relatively rich? The life cycle model says no way. This is independent of how you invest money between time periods, Scott said. For investing, our model does not look at reckless interest rates. We argue that investment expected returns and risk are in equilibrium, so the core result is unlikely to change by introducing risky investments. However, it is definitely a limitation of our approach. We consider relatively rich wage profiles and relatively poor wage profiles, said Scott. Both suggest young people should not save for retirement. I think the vast majority of medium wage or high workers experience a wage increase over their first 20 years of working. However, there is certainly risk in wages. I think you could rightly argue that young people might want to save some as a precaution against unexpected wage declines. However, this would not be saving for retirement. In the question, to end it all, should you wait for retirement until you're in your mid-30s? Well, according to Scott, if you subscribe to the life cycle model, sure, why not? But if you subscribe to conventional wisdom, know that consumption might be lower in your younger years than it needs to be. And so I would ask you, the audience, should you wait to save for retirement until you're in your 30s? I would like to know your responses in the comment section below. As for me, both are very interesting the way you look at each path between the life cycle model and conventional wisdom, which it means putting money into a 401k, a Roth IRA, making sure you have a match with companies that you're at. That's basically what they mean by conventional wisdom. But like I said, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. And in the next slide is just my sources, which I found all of it and kind of compiled it into a PowerPoint. So I hope you enjoyed this PowerPoint, found some meaning, some knowledge into it. These are not just going to be random. I'll be making more videos based off of what you guys, the audience, thinks. So thank you for hopefully watching to the very end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you for being here to watch my first video. And other than that, you guys have a good day.